People, it is Thursday. All right, excited. Tonight we're going to be finishing up our questions that we also had from last week. Please, if you have any real estate questions, submit them here in the post so I can be able to answer your real estate questions. Hello, IG. My name is Tashawna Nicole. I'm the owner of Plums and Profit. I'm a loan officer. We talk real estate business and development here, personal development. So if you have any real estate questions, please pop them in the chat. If you came on last week and I missed your question, please add it here again so I'll know. If you're watching this as replay, say replay. All right. So let's get started. We're going to ask some real estate questions. If y'all have any, make sure you go ahead and drop them in the chat. So I do already have some real estate questions that were asked to me. So we're going to go right in and get in on it. All right. So the first question I have is when you are looking to purchase a home, is there a year built you should stay away from? If not, are there different red flags to look for in an older home versus a new home? And are the red flags something I, as a regular person, can spot? Or do I need a professional? Good Lord, that's a loaded question, right? So that's about three questions in one. So let's start with the first one. When you are looking for to purchase a home, is there a year built you should stay away from? Yes. So any homes that's built in the 1960s or earlier, you want to pay attention if they have asbestos, right? So usually homes that are built 1930s, 40s, 50s, they will use lead-based paint. They found asbestos. So that's something that you definitely want to look for whenever you're buying a more older home. What you can also look for in an older home is going to be structure wise, right? So you want to make sure that the home is structurally sound, and that kind of plays up on having a professional check that out. But yeah, I'm not going to say necessarily stay away from it, but you have to understand that asbestos and lead paint is something that can cause cancer, right? Those are carcinogens. So yes, you don't have to stay away from, but take heed that you're going to have to do some things to get rid of the asbestos as well as that lead paint. You can't just paint over it. You're really going to have to remove it out. All right. If not, are there different red flags to look for in an older home versus a new home? So, as I said, with the older home, you got asbestos, you got lead paint. That's something that, has to be disclosed to you. Now, in a newer home, let me tell you something that you got to watch out, even in a newer home, is how the home was built. Yes, you have to follow protocol. But so, for instance, when we first purchased our home and we did an inspection, right, they had the wiring done wrong in the house. Not necessarily done wrong as in catch fire done wrong, but they had the whole kitchen under one part inside of the breaker box, right? So we had to end up getting a new line put into the breaker box so that it wouldn't shut off all the power in the kitchen, just because of using multiple appliances in the kitchen. So that could be a problem. Structure wise, leaking roof, right? So the newer the home, of course, you should not be expecting any red flags. Why? Because it's a newer home. But with older homes, because they have not necessarily went through the process of getting of what is now required by the state code, there will be some things that may feel a little janky only because you're not in a newer home and it was based off of a prior coding. Okay. So that can also cause coding violations. If you decide to do like any renovations or anything in your home, there may be some things that may cause red flags from there. All right. So as a normal person, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, you're not going to know as a regular person if something is going on. Of course, you're going to look up in the ceiling. You may see spots in the ceiling and say, okay, that looked like that could have been a leak. You know, things like that you're going to see, but structure wise, things like that you're not going to see. So this is when, my friend, I'm telling you, okay, this is when you want to make sure you get an inspection done on the home. Why? Because they check the electrical outlets, they check in plumbing, they checking the things that when you get an appraiser to come out, the appraiser just looking to see, is this house worth what you say is worth? But an inspector is going to really inspect the property. They're going to inspect. They're going to go in the crawl space. They're going to look up under there and make sure things are in place. They're going to look and make sure things are structurally right. They're going to look and make sure things electrically are right. Your plumbing, things like that. So you always want to get a professional opinion when you are purchasing a house. All right. Awesome. Awesome. All right. Next question here. All right. DSCR. How does it work and what type of situation is good for you to do a DSCR? All right. So first of all, DSCR, debt service cost ratio. Basically, this is when you have an investment property that you are looking to rent out, right? And so you want to be able to use the income that's coming in from that rental property, from your renter, so that you can qualify in terms of income for a loan. DSCR is specifically for rental properties. Okay, so if you're renting out a property for $2,000 and your mortgage is $1,000, then you could be able to use the DSCR loan. So how it works is basically you have a renter in your home, they pay you rent, you use that rent as your income versus being a W-2 versus using your 1099s versus you using your bank statements versus using anything. You're using that income from that property in order to qualify in terms of your income. All right. So what type of situation is this good for? If you are living in the home, then you cannot use a DSCR, right? Because it is for individuals, like I said, an investment property, right? Investment properties are considered non-owner occupied, which means you don't live there, right? You do not live there. So DSCR is primarily used for investors. This is also great. Let's say you find you an investment property, right? And you're looking to get your first rental property, and you may not be making any income. So you can use the potential income with some lenders and the actual income. Let's say you find somebody, you get that lease, they sign, you know they're going to move in. Now you have stated income for that particular property. So it's good for you if, as I said, if you may not have income coming in for yourself or you don't want to use your income, then you can use the rental income for that particular investment property. All right. Let's see. Next question here. And y'all chime in, ask your questions. I would love to be able to answer any questions that are live. So ask those questions and I can be able to even if you don't really have a question, you just want to know and help somebody else out, right? There may be some questions that your niece, your cousin, your mama, your uncle, your aunt, somebody got a question, all right, about real estate. So pop it here, whether it's whether you're looking to refinance or buy. Pop your question in the chat so I can answer it live here tonight. All right, next question. What is the difference between primary and secondary home loans? There's a couple of differences. Primary means you live there, and you can be able to live in your primary for as long as you want to, right? That's your property. This is where I lay my head at night. Secondary, this can either be considered vacation home where you're going there throughout the year and you just want to have that second home. But there are stipulations around a second home. It can only be but so far from your home to be considered a secondary home. Okay. Why do they do that? Because they don't want you buying property saying it's secondary and it's an investment. They don't want you you don't want to get into mortgage fraud, right? So you want to clarify if it's an investment property, it's for business intentions, right? Secondary, hey, I work here. And so let's say you say I work in Georgia, but I work on the borderline of South Carolina, right? I mean, I live in Georgia, but I work on the borderline of South Carolina, and I want to buy a home so that I don't necessarily have to keep driving 100 miles in order to get back home. I want to buy a home in South Carolina. Then you can use that as a secondary home loan. Usually, with secondary home loans, sometimes you have to put down more because it is a secondary home. It's not your primary. Okay. So that's really the difference between primary and secondary. I kind of threw investment property in there because investment properties are not owner occupied. Secondary and primary usually are. All right. Let's see here. Okay. Next question. If you no longer can use your FHA, which is your primary or secondary, okay, what other loan options are available to you as an investor? So, as I said before, if you're living in your primary, you can't consider that an investment property because that's your primary. That's where you lay your head. Now, here's a kicker though. I'm going to go ahead and tell you. You can have, and this is actually a house hack as well. You can have individuals renting out a room and you can count border income, right? You can put border income on your as one of your qualifying incomes. So you can rent out a room, but it's still considered your primary because you live there. People do this also with multifamily units. They live in one unit and rent out the rest, right? So that's your primary. That's a way as an investor, right, that you can be able to use your FHA and then still be able to have an investment. All right, Crochet Tasty Treats. Hello. Best tasting treats. I'm telling y'all, get some cupcakes if you're in the Georgia area. Crochet's Tasty Treats. Delicious. She made some vegan cupcakes for us. Man, melting in your mouth. Everybody grabbed them up. And so I tried to get as much as I could before they can grab them all. That's how good they were. Okay. Vegan cupcakes, telling you, awesome. All natural, everything. I love it. Okay. Girl, just seeing you on there just gave me a flashback of how good them cupcakes were. But for your secondary home, same thing. It's not considered an investment property because you are using that as one of your residences. So, as an investor, what other options are available for you? We just went over DSCR. This is one of the best ways to get in while you can. Another, you can do 1099. So if you're self-employed, 1099. If you have, let's say you got $500,000, you just came into an inheritance, you can use that money to acquire properties. Asset depletion, right? Where you have a certain amount in your bank account, let's say $500,000, that will allow for you to qualify. They can use that for income. Let's see, as an investor, you can do bank statement loans. You can be able to use non-QM, right? Non-QM. But the main thing that is going to allow for you to acquire the home and be able to get the best rates, as I said, DSCR. And basically, if you're not using your own income, DSCR, and if you are using your own income, then you can be able to do commercial and still be able to pick up residential properties also as an investment as residential as well. So you don't have to go commercial. You can also still be able to do residential as an investor. All right. So we do have a question over here. Let's see. What are some problems first-time home buyers run into? Good question. All right, so what are some problems first-time home buyers run into? Problem number one, no money to actually close their loan, right? So sometimes, and I mean this as in, and I feel like this is the crazy part that a lot of people, I don't see them talk about. You may see somebody post on social media. They'll say, you can get this house for 3.5%. Or you can be able to get this house at 100% no down payment. The one thing that they are missing in all of this is closing costs. If you are not able to get seller concessions or gifts is usually used for FHA, VA, right? You can get someone to say, hey, I'm going to give you $5,000 towards your house to buy your house. If you're not getting that, or the seller allowing you to get seller concession, then you, my friend, are going to have to pay closing costs. Here's the thing, and I want you guys to understand, as first-time home buyers, closing costs are not always talked about, which is why, you see only people talking about down payment. Your down payment is inside of the closing costs, plus everything else it takes to actually close the loan. So sometimes those closing costs can be anywhere from $4,000 and upwards, depending on your home loan, right? And so you want to understand that even if you got $20,000 that you want to put down for a down payment, that still may not cover your closing costs. So you want to make sure that you have that covered. That's a big thing I see a lot of first-time home buyers are looking for. They're looking like, hey, this is all I got. Can I get a house? The only way that you can be able to do that is through seller concessions, gifts, and that will allow for you to be able to lower those closing costs, okay? Something else about first-time home buyers, and I'm going to answer your next question. Something else about first-time home buyers, you got to understand there's things that's going to come out of your pocket as the home buyer. Inspection, appraisal, right? Inspections, appraisal. And even if you buy your home as is, you need to know what is going on. That goes back to my first question. Get a professional in the house to tell you these are the things that's going on with this house to make it even if you know if it's worth it, right? So you want to check that out. Let's see, the process as a whole. I think a lot of first-time home buyers, they're learning a lot, and it's a lot of cadence. It's a lot of vocab that's been thrown around, and there's a lot of questions in what can I really afford? What can I be able to get? And there are certain areas you may want to be in. So you got to understand, where are you financially? And if you're prepping to buy your first house, I would say, first of all, you got to have 2 years that you done been employed or making some type of income. You got to show 2 years. This is not Tashawna rule. This is the government rule. Okay. You got to make sure you got something to give. As I said, closing costs, a lot of people forget that. The process, as I said, you first want to get pre-approved. Know if you even qualify before you even go out there and start shopping for homes. Find out if you qualify. That's very important. So come to me. I'll help you get qualified. I'll see if you qualify. I can't, if you're not, you're not. There's nothing I can do about it. Knowing the areas. Case in point, when me and my husband started looking for our houses way back in the day, we was trying to find houses, and then we went and applied and couldn't even get the loan. And we already talked about that. So we knew we had to make sure our credit was good. FHA, we talked about that. You can go as little as 580, conventional, little as 620 credit score. But we knew we had to get ourselves in position in order to actually purchase our home. So those are like the main primary things I see. Are there programs to help with closing costs? Yes, there are programs like DACA, NACA. There's programs. Sometimes lenders offer you programs. Like we got a partner lender that offers to pay 2% of your 1% down payment. There's programs that are government programs, right? they have, I think one of the programs in North Carolina, they have it where they'll give you $15,000 towards your purchase of your home, as long as you stay in the home for a certain amount of time. So yes, there are programs, but you got to go look for them. Just Google it. Just Google it. I promise you. There's also other programs out there where lenders will allow for you to, if there's enough equity in the home, you can use equity to kind of help you pay for some of your closing costs. So there's different ways out here that can allow for you to lower your closing costs without having to come to the table with, tens of thousands of dollars. Great question. Great question. Keep them coming, y'all. Keep them coming. Let me check over. Y'all keep the questions coming. I love them. All right. Let's see. We got a couple more here, you guys. Okay. How to buy a house with no money down. I kind of already went over that. The only way you can buy a house with no money down is through 100% no money down. Okay. 100% is USDA or VA. But you got to be a veteran. You got to have served. You had to have served. That's the only way with no money down. But you got to still consider closing costs. All right. You can say, oh, I got 100% loan, but you still got to pay those closing costs. The closing costs they got to come from somewhere. Okay. All right. Next question. How to get a home with bad credit. This is subjective. Okay. There are lenders out there that will go lower than a 500. But here's the thing I want you to consider. If you're lower than a 500, then you want to look at how you're managing your money on a monthly basis. And some of the ways that you could be able to get your score up rather quickly is paying down your debt. And this is kind of what I did to jump my score and just come. I'm not a credit repair specialist. Okay. But one of the things I did was I was able to get a line of credit, which once I got that, pay down all of my debt, make sure nothing was in collections, clear those off, and that allowed my score to go up a little bit. Then I kept paying monthly. That allowed it to go up just a little bit more. Then as it went up, then I applied for a couple of credit cards that same day so that, it wasn't staggering. Boom, did that. It only went down a couple points. But then once the credit was added, it went up even more. Why? Because my credit utilization went down. All right. So that's about all I can help you with on that. But bad credit, FHA allows for you to go with a score as little as 580 credit score. And there are lending partners out there that I know we have that will go as low as a 500 credit score for you in order to get a home loan. And FHA is going to be your best bet when it comes to bad credit. Why? Because FHA is more for, low to moderate income families usually use that. Sometimes you can find some darn good rates better than conventional on FHA. But if you have bad credit, if that's what you call it, FHA is the way you want to go. All right. Let's see what we got here. All right. What is a cash out refinance? So cash out is what it says. If you own a home and you have equity in that home, let's say your balance on your house is $250,000 and your home is worth $400,000. Well, you can take 80% up to that $400,000, right? You got to appraise for that much. So what's that? Let's see, 400,000 times 80%. So that's 320,000, right? So what happens is with a cash out, now you have available to you 320,000 minus your regular balance you have now. And we're going to go ahead and take out closing costs while we at it. All right, we're going to go on and take that out. So I'm going to just say $8,000 closing costs, right? So you have about $62,000 available for you to take out, right? This is hypothetical. But what a cash out essentially is, I have a property, it has equity, I want some of that money from my equity. The great thing about it is because you are taking money from a debt, is not considered capital gains and or income. All right, because you are getting it from a debt, just like a credit card. You're using debt to acquire extra funds, so you don't pay taxes on a debt, right? All right, so your new home loan balance would be the 62,000 plus the 250,000 plus the 8,000 we had took out, right, for closing costs. So 320,000 will be your new home, your new loan after you have taken out about $60,000 in cash in your pocket. Okay, in your pocket to do what you want. We do cash out refinances. I love them because we take it and go get a rental property to bring us more money in. It's a beautiful thing. I love it. All right, so which is better, HELOC or a cash out? Sometimes HELOCs will require you to have a higher credit score. All right, and I'm gonna come back to your question. Sometimes HELOC will require you to have a higher credit score. Sometimes they will close, right? So just like a loan, once it's up, it is up, it is gone. There's two different kinds: piggyback, standalone. Piggyback is piggybacking off your primary, your first loan, and then standalone means is just your HELOC based off your property. You still have to get an appraisal like you would with a cash out. And the difference is it's just a line of credit that you're paying for outside of your refinance. So they're going to look at your debt to income ratio to make sure that this new debt that you're creating can pay for that. If you are looking to do a cash out, then, same difference, is still 30 years, just like you would a HELOC. The only difference is with a line of credit, you can continue to pull off of that draw, and the interest rate may be higher than a cash out refinance, but you're able to pull from that draw as you pay it off. You can pull, pay it off, pull, versus a cash out, which means you got a lump sum out and you're paying back. But with a cash out, pay it down, you can borrow it back. Pay it down, you can borrow it back, right? That is the difference. All right, so we got one more question over here. Okay, so last question of tonight is, what's the average time it takes to close on a home? That is subjective in so many ways, right? So for instance, there's people out here that's closing home loans in 45 to 60 days, right? A purchase. There's individuals that it may take them 45 to 60 days to do a refinance. Personally, for me, I like to think of it, if we got 30 days. We got 30 days to close and fund, right? So for instance, clear to close. So clear to close means all the documents that the lender need is in and you're able to close. So for instance, I got a clear to close in 13 days, right? That's less than 30 days, but in the system is 30 days from submitting the loan, getting the docs in, and saying now you can close on that loan. That was 13 days. Then it took about a week for us to make sure everything is CD out, balance, everything like that, prepping for closing, right? It's still closing before the 30 days. So I can't really speak for anybody else. For me personally, I got to do everything within that 30-day time span. If your lender or your loan officer isn't on it like that, then honey, you better be on them. Why? Because it don't take that long. And plus, if you get your documents in, you can close within those 30 days. It is possible. Yes. So you have to be just as vigilant as, your loan officer would to make sure. Get the document. If they're asking for documents, get them in, because the sooner you can get your documents in, the sooner you can close, right? Because sometimes underwriting can take anywhere from 1 to 5 days just for underwriting. And underwriting is basically where the lender professionals, the underwriters, look at your loan, and based off your application and what you submitted, they look at that and make sure it matches up and they have what they need. If they got questions, they're going to ask for more documents to clarify what is going on. I'm very vocal with processors and underwriters because I want to make sure they get what they need the first time around, right? I want to make sure they have the information from the beginning so that we can be able to close on time. So definitely always make sure you get your docs in and you are on it, because you just don't know how long it's going to take underwriting. For instance, refinances take lesser time. Why? Because you already own the home. You it's just basically quantifying you in terms of, do you have the credit, do you have the income, and and does this house appraise for what you're saying is going to appraise for? That's really in terms of what the lender is looking for. If you can provide the basic documents needed, and there's so many different ways you can qualify in terms of income, but if you can give those documents needed, you can close within 30 days. Like I said, I can't speak for people. They say the average, if you Google it, they say the average is 45 to 60 days. That is not me. I want to get you in your home and get you your money as soon as possible, right? So the goal is to close within 30 days. I can't speak for nobody else but me. That's my goal. Thank you, Krisha. Is there any other question, you guys, before we get off tonight? Are there any more real estate questions before we end tonight? I'll take one more question before we go. And we're going to have one more. We're going to finish out July with one more Q&A session for real estate next week. And then August, we'll probably go into a series, a different series. So are there any more questions before we head out tonight? All right. If there is not, I want you to put your questions below. If you have any real estate questions and you're watching this as a replay, put your questions below. Hello, beautiful. Put your questions below so that I can be able to answer them. If you're not on here, I will be able to make a video of the question if it's something that needs to be said via video. Okay. So if not, all right, we're going to go ahead and close tonight since nobody. Do you have any questions for me, Power Place Now? Come on, girl. Give me a question. But if not, I'll see y'all next week. I appreciate you. I love you. And make sure you slay every day with